I think and Ming is with us. Let me.
Yes.
Yes, all right there. Perfect. Okay. And again, folks, if it's hard for you to read the poster, I think you can zoom in on the screen that I'm sharing with you. I know some of them, just because of the orientation and the font size, are a little harder to see than others. This project that you're about to hear about, I got to go visit their site firsthand and get a tour of the location and the trails, and it was very beautiful. And I actually learned a lot in the short amount of time that I was out there. I learned new invasive plants that I didn't even know about before. But I will let Enming tell you all about his project.
Okay, so my project was mapping invasive plants in the Oswegatchie Hills. I chose 5 just to begin with, which were mugwort, Japanese stiltgrass, Japanese barberry, oriental bittersweet, and Japanese knotweed. I chose this project because it was a continuation of a Sustainable Connecticut project,
That's right.
which is a certification that towns can get in order to gain grants for being ecologically friendly. I did it using EpiCollect. I used the location question to map data about the plants and the location of the plants into Google Maps.
Mhm.
And I used Trackit to map the trails in the actual park so that there'd be a reference of where all the plants were in the park. I learned quite a lot about all the different plants. I've never really thought about plants that much before this this project, and I learned a lot about how invasives work and how they spread. So one of the major takeaways was that there are a lot of invasives at the edge, but there are very few on the inside. The only plant that I found on the inside of the park was Japanese stiltgrass. Um, the rest were all on the borders of the park. And this, we can use this to hopefully focus the attention of conservation efforts to the edges instead of so that we're not putting resources into areas that don't need it, such as the middle.
Right.
The interior needs a little work with the Japanese stiltgrass, but not nearly as much as the edges.
I know that you had shown me the Japanese stiltgrass when we were out there, and
Yes.
that it was hard for me to identify it. You know, you kept pointing it out, but you know, it can easily kind of blend in with just other grasses. So I think it's cool that you're providing this resource for other people to be able to identify it. Do you know about management techniques for stiltgrass?
It's probably similar to most of the other techniques, which are to basically get rid of it and then put a tarp over it for like a couple of years, and that
Okay.
generally keeps it from coming up.
Okay. Next steps.
So the next steps, I wanted to create a 4-season photo library, because right now I only have 2 seasons, summer and winter.
Mm-hmm.
Because when I first started this project, I had a very hard time identifying. I had a very hard time identifying plants. These plants when they were off season, because most photos are in the summer when they have all their foliage.
Right, right.
So I wanted to create a resource for anyone else who wanted to find these, so they could find these in any season they wanted to. I also wanted to give this data that I've collected over to the Friends of Oswegatchie, so that they can use this for management of the park. And I'm going to use the skills that I acquired using the software to do other Sustainable Connecticut projects, such as walkability. Yeah.
Were you able to submit this to Sustainable Connecticut? You know, your project and get the points?
They're in the process of doing that.
Okay. I wasn't sure, you know, how long that took or anything.
Yeah.
And so you also presented this recently at another event?
Yes, I did. I presented it as at a 4-H speaking contest. I did okay with that, but it helped me gain experience with public speaking and made me know my facts inside and out.
Oh, good, good. I do have a question here that says, what was your botany experience before this project?
Before this project, I had zero experience with botany.
Oh,
That was one of the cool things about this. It introduced me to the world of plants because I'd never really thought about plants. I've been more of a wildlife person.
okay.
So it's been very interesting learning about how plants work and
I thought,
like
well,
my
go ahead.
my partner Tom Kalal, he's very into plants. So that's
Okay. Is that what one of the reasons that led you to this project because of his interests?
yes, definitely. As you can see from the top of the poster, he says he's a CT Connecticut Master Gardener.
Hmm.
Um, so he knows a lot about this, and he was able to help me identifying these plants and identifying the invasive plants that really mattered, because
Okay.
he's really into this type of thing.
I don't know if you've seen the comments, but people are saying that you're doing a fine job presenting.
Oh,
Um,
thank you.
and I want to say that when I was out there, I thought you did a great job teaching me about the different plants. So at that point, you had already seemed like gained quite a bit of knowledge, and we're good at sharing that.
Okay, thank you.
So, a question from Carrie. She says, seriously impressed, which I agree. In addition to the fact sheets, did you create any web product? And she would also love to see your maps. So I know you have the EpiCollect form. Um, are
I'm not
people
sure.
able to access that and add to it?
Um, I probably have a picture somewhere of the map. If you can, let's see. It was on my slide, but if I sent that to you, would that?
Oh, yeah. Um, I do have it, though it might take a second for me to find that. Um, is the map available, or could it be something that you link to from the Friends of Oswegatchie website?
I probably could. I'm not sure how to link it,
Hmm.
but I could figure that out.
I think it would be helpful for people who use those trails. It seems like a pretty actively used area. It
Yes,
could be helpful for them to be there and know which plants are which, uh, when they're on the trails. Though
yes,
I
definitely.
understand most of it is on the outside of the border of the. Oh, and then Claudia said that she would love to use this project to teach her middle school students about local invasive plants. So
Oh, that's very
look at
cool.
that. Look, your resources are already going to help some folks. Um, okay. Any other questions for Enming, or any final thoughts? Did you have something in particular that you thought was the hardest part of this program?
I think the hardest part was actually finding the plants, cause
Hmm.
I mean, like identifying which plants I wanted to include, because there are a few, but I wanted to choose like the most important ones and the ones that were affecting the ecosystem the most.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so I had to pick and choose, and once I found them, it was pretty easy because I could just go out and identify where I saw them.
Okay.
Uh, but the hardest part was definitely um, figuring out which ones were the most important.
I remember the mugwort that's there near the entrance, and
Yeah, there's a lot of mugwort right by the entrance, and really all along the edges. It is the most common um, invasive in the park.
And I think just getting more people to recognize it and know what it is will be really helpful.
Yes,
So great job.
definitely. Thank you.
Let me check. All right, we've got I think a multi-person group up next. Thank you so much for joining us and being able to participate. I know this isn't exactly how we imagined this going when we were planning everything weeks ago. So thank you, Enming, for calling in and presenting your project with us.